Well, it's me again, Dr. Kenneth Niles, and I'm here this great evening. And I know that you must have been having a good week. There's so much to talk about, and I know you can tell me so much things that's happening in your own sphere, in your own environment, working out disappointment, working out that it's a failure, establishing success, of course, being a butterfly. I thought that was rather interesting. You know, the more I think about it, the more I realize that, we really can't see the butterfly from a pure or even from a caterpillar point of view. But it's there. It's there. And the thing about this is as we overcome the issue of disappointment and realize that, is it real disappointment? Or is it, again, how we have interpreted this context of what should have been when it should have been, because it should have been. And recently, I've been reading the Bible and looking at the story of Joseph and his brothers. And I found that fascinating, that yet there was disappointment there. Let's say in Joseph, was how he was treated by his brothers. Yet there was a point too how he didn't continue in the house of Potiphar. Yes, there was a point maybe how he may have been forgotten by the baker. But yet, it all works together for good. And that was quite interesting when he met his brother and told him, excuse me, don't be so concerned and disappointed, hurt about what you did to me, because God has allowed this. And I thought that was a very interesting consideration for what we are talking here about. This whole disappointment. Yes, it's a bad time. Yes, we are thrown into negativity. But yet, down the road, butterfly. And so Joseph experienced a great butterfly experience. Did I really say that just now? He experienced a very dynamic butterfly. And he became ruler in Egypt. And so it is important for us to begin to understand how we are going forward and why. So when we look at the realities, and I'm not putting down the realities that would have led you to that place of disappointment, and of course brought you into a place where you may have been depressed and angry and sad and frustrated, all those things we talked about. No, I'm not saying no, those are real, those are your experiences. I can't take that from you. But what I want to help you with here is to understand and appreciate how I can go forward and without those things, how I can make a difference in terms of where I'm going and what I'm doing. And I want us to be very much aware that these things are not even, to use this expression, not even set in concrete, but they are very much alive. Very, very much alive. And so therefore change is real. But how am I going to manage this change? How am I going to work this change? It's amazing. And so sometimes I feel myself really up against a wall. And I'm looking all over the place and I really don't know what's happening here. But I'm responding. And also, I have also, that's one thing about Joseph. But the other thing I realized that people can tell me that they're positive disappointments. I am disappointed that you did not behave a particular way. I am disappointed that you didn't come to my house when the others came. And they will say to me, it's not that I am disappointed. I'm not angry. It's just that I really was looking out for you. But the issue is that you did have a change of emotion. The issue is that what you expected did not realize. The issue is that it is not what you wanted. Because you had a plan in your head. You had a format. You had a construct. You had a picture that was not realized. And we have to learn that whether it seems positive in terms of, it's not that I'm I'm thrown and overwhelmed, no. But once you cannot establish or cannot come to terms with that there has been a difference, that disappointment creates that negative emotion that brings you into a place now that you have to face. So I'm saying to you, yes, it may not have been severe or intense as if you really had lost a job or, God didn't get a check. But it is still a change of emotion that brings you into a place where you have to consider how to continue differently. Now, the person who said to me is, it's mine. It's because I didn't see you turn up, and you still have to learn how to behave now with the absence of that person, or you still have to learn how to behave with that non-communication. You still have to learn to behave because with the absence of a person, that is a void, and there's a you might end up saying if she or he was here. So we have to be honest about how we are preparing ourselves to work with the void, to work with the not there, to work with the fact that I am not. And so not maybe if it was severe, you would then go into the failure context. For now, as we talk about this more milder context of what people say positive disappointment, it is not that you are going to go into a place where you are depressed or frustrated or angry, but you are going to be disturbed. And I think it's important for us to appreciate that this is what we need to look at, how we are managing the emotions. And that's why the butterfly is so important. How do we manage that? How do we see that we can work with? Now, one of the things that is very important here in terms of this issue of disappointment, I should say it this way, there is always another party involved. Whether second party, third party, fourth party, there are other people involved. So disappointment doesn't just come all by yourself. It's about the fact that somebody else did not do or accomplish in order for you to be satisfied. And that is what we have to also look at today. Because the context of the fact that somebody's up there not doing what they're supposed to do, we have to show the woulda couldas, or we have the greater thing about you now, as I think I mentioned that some 2 weeks ago, the issue of you attacking or judging or coming against that person very strongly because they messed up. Now, one of the things we have to realize that we all socialize differently. And that person from whom you expected a different kind of behavior that would have complemented your whole objectives, that person may not have even considered or even have an understanding of what was expected. But we expect them to work it because, of course, maybe they're adults, and we use that word so loosely, not realizing they have never been exposed. They've never been trained. They've never been put in that place where they can do differently. And so we have to also be kind and come into that place of peace and patience to work with what is different from us, to work with people who may not have been trained, who may not have been exposed, who may not have had the knowledge, but yet we may manage it. And even if, let's go to the other side, if they did have the knowledge and the exposure, at that time, we do not even know their emotions, how they manage their own emotions in times of that kind of scenario. So that even though they have expertise, they may not be as assertive to establish the order of the day and to accomplish that which was set forth. They may have setbacks in their own heart, in how they speak, in how they ask questions, in what they were supposed to be acquiring, and they may have dropped the ball. We have to learn how to work with that, to alleviate that context of disappointment. We have to learn how to bring that into a place where we are wondering how I can move into a different sphere of not being disappointed. It is important for me to exactly articulate sometimes what is expected or what I am desiring. And so that we don't articulate it. Sometimes it's not even articulated properly to us. Bring this to our interview, do that. But we don't exactly know what is going to be asked, how it's going to be asked. And sometimes we don't even know who is going to be asked. Even if we have a name, we just don't know who. So all those factors you're up against, because now you come into the room with a whole different perspective. And therefore, when you ask a question, you may ask it from your perspective and from your own language set. So that we have that kind of problem too, in terms of the expectations, not working out language, cultures, traditions, that all are wrapped up that context, that concept of expectations. So how do I work that? How do I increase my ability in terms of emotional intelligence to be able to hear negativity, hear difference, and work it out? Now, that is a strength that we all need. That is important for the future. So here am I saying to you, hey, approach it differently. But, oh, Dr. Niles, hold on. You don't know. You don't know. I cannot overcome this thing. I cannot work this thing out because, hey, that person really hurt me. I thought, I expected that they would behave differently or they would have said differently. But did you have a conversation knowing why they didn't say it? Why they said it the way they said it? Have you sat down and looked at the situation from their point of view? No, what I'm talking here is a bit of conflict management because disappointment also creates opportunity for conflict. I am upset and I'm not going to talk to you. See me, I'm going down that road again and I'm not going to talk to she again, and the next time I will use somebody else. And, hello? So we are actually looking also at conflict. We are actually looking to see how best to be kind of share with one another and yet come out win-win. We don't want to win-lose. We don't want to lose-win either. We want to have a win-win. And to get that win-win in terms of how we had disappointment, people say, Dr. Niles, how you reach here? You see, you have to realize that emotion creates a conflict. Because you don't want to go down that road again, and you're going to now maybe avoid the person, not want to talk to them, not want to engage them, because you don't want to go down that road again. So that we have to learn how to manage that conflict, how to manage that feeling that is causing us to wade in our resilience and to come into that place of animosity and aggression, rather than to be assertive and resilient and be enterprising, learning how to work with the other person's concept of what is happening now. I want us to take this thing really, a little more slowly, and I want you to work it through. So here am I disappointed. Here you didn't provide what was expected. How am I to assert myself? Now, I pause here, and I trust I will unpause. There is a culture out there that tells you, no, I'm not able. I don't even want to remember this day. I get out of my face. I don't want to know you anymore. But there's a culture also that says, hey, if you do that, tit for tat, you do that, when your turn comes, don't ask me, because I am not even, but I thought, we thought we were friends, but not to knowing that we're not really friends because, hey, look what you're doing. Hold on. There's a culture that says, you see, hey, that person have nothing to do with them. Turn the next way, not turn the next cheek. You might have to turn both cheeks. So, no, turn the next way. Don't even walk on the same pavement. We have been trapped with so many cultural icons and so many interpretations of how we are to protect ourselves from further disappointment, from a further calamity. And that is what needs to also be addressed. We cannot continue positively if we are afraid to confront, afraid to re-identify, afraid to realign or align with the person or with the system. And we have to and also understand that in our own space, we are discomforted. We are agonized. You're away from the office. The incident has happened. You are disappointed. 1 week, 2 weeks, and then you turn around and say, somebody asks a question, says, don't go down that road. Don't go down that road. Because it brings all the memories back fresh. And you're now saying, if this had happened, I wouldn't be asked that question. If this had happened, that would have been done. So we haven't really reconciled the fact that it did happen. So that's one of the first things we have to learn about it did happen. It did happen. We were disappointed. And it involved the non-action of another, or the non-presentation, or the lack of connectivity with somebody else. So therefore, we have to sit down now on pause and realize that I have to find that person or that system and work it better and see how it can make a difference for me. Am I willing, or am I just going to shut it down? Are we willing to confront? And those are one of the weaknesses that, we're not forthright with it. Going back to that Bible passage that I read with Joseph, there was a famine in the land that caused the brothers to come to Egypt to get corn, to get grain. God allowed a national issue to bring them to face their brother. I mean, they did not know it was their brother, but so that sometimes there is going to be another occasion in your life when God is going to rearrange and arrange for you to come again into that space where you have to confront not your past alone, but your very future, because it would show that this thing really is part of my future. That's how you prove that something really is. It's kind of, there's this phrase that goes around, second chance. It's not just a second chance, it's a second opportunity to bring you into your fullness, to bring you to the reality of who you are, to bring you into that success. But it's not that you didn't have the success, it's about learning how to work through larvae, caterpillar, puma, butterfly. And those dynamics of the butterfly have their own different. Neither of them look alike. Larvae don't look like caterpillar don't look like puma don't look like butterfly. All of different, and they're all exposed differently. The larvae swims in water. The caterpillar crawls on the ground, up on trees, eat leaves. The puma in utter darkness, isolation. The butterfly, the world, it's the butterflies. You could take it however, wherever. And that is something that we have to learn. So that we have to begin to see that we cannot parallel, or we cannot assume that, hey, what has happened to me now is going to happen to me now, and I don't want the same thing that, excuse me, in your journey to that success, every dynamic of that journey is going to be different. And we have to learn how to put that in perspective. We have to learn how to manage that, to make it real for us. I really want us to tap into this and to appreciate that there is this realness of how I have to approach. Let me back again. Let me back here. I mentioned about communication. But I also want to understand, for you to appreciate that this communication has to do with dialogue, has to do with language, talk, has to do again with a hearing of what is being said, rather than what you think should be said. Because if we can go further with the disappointment, you're lying. When you will talk the truth, that is not what I know you know. I know you. Hold on. Allow the person to expose themselves, to share, and to talk freely from where they're at, and learn to appreciate that you don't know, You are learning, so that in your learning, you may ask certain questions that brings further clarification, that brings you into the acceptance of where you're at and how you're going forward. So that we cannot just fight the solution. We have to be a part of the solution. We can't just want to terrorize it and say, hey, it's not real. The solution is real, but we have to be a part of it, and that's why the word dialogue is so important. Dialogue is not about you speaking monologuely. It's about dialogue, having that conversation between you and the other person. Because, as I said before, disappointment is not something singular nor insular. It is very dynamically poised to identify with some other forum that did not perform as expected. So that we have to learn to work this out beautifully and establish that forum in terms of where we go further and how we go further. So I want us to have a dialogue. I want us to, as we going forward, this thing is broadened up in my, I thought we may have cut all this thing, finished. No, but disappointment is real. It is real. So we have to learn how to dialogue, how to communicate, so that we can build that resilience in terms of how I am going to hear and therefore be able to have information that will help me recalibrate, to realign, and to come into a space where I can say, hey, all things work together for good. Yes, I am growing through this, or I am having an experience that I didn't know I could have had because of how I am now learning to overcome this disappointment and bring it where it is. So I can begin to see myself butterflying. Don't write that, please. But see myself in that success, coming through these dynamics that are all different. No connectivity of constructor and beauty as butterfly. Each one has a distinct, different, but yet, I might like the little colorful caterpillar, but soon it's going to lose that and you're not seeing anything. But one day you just see the flutter. Sorry, you hear the fluttering and you see the beauty and say, oh, butterfly. So I want us to capture that and to work that beautifully and to go forward and know that in you there is the capacity to talk, to communicate, to share, and to listen to what is being said, not to listen to what you think you should hear or what the person should say. Listen to what they're saying and work that dialogue and get that communication going and bring ourselves to a place where we can find a greater level of homeostasis, a greater level of resilience, and learn how to embrace our future that is coming to us through the dynamics of change. So, conflict yet, but we overcome it. Disappointment yet, all wrapped up, we overcome that because we're going forward. So let's go forward. During this week, go forward. Practice, learn, share. Tell a friend, tell somebody how it is to work this disappointment away and out of you. So until then, Dr. Niles saying, have a good walk. Rather, have a good time. Whether it's swimming, crawling, hanging, or flying. Success is ahead of you.